All right. I want to welcome everyone to another Owner Finance Your Way to Freedom, one note at a time. It's an absolute pleasure to be with everyone today. As a quick reminder, we are using StreamYard. So in order for me to know who you are, you need to go ahead and give permission to StreamYard to let Facebook kind of know who you are. And that way, when you comment, I will know who you are. I love to know the audience a little bit. So if you guys are able to comment after you give permission to StreamYard, your city and where you're from, that'd be great. I always love to know where everyone is from. And as always, Facebook algorithm loves it when you like and share and comment and all that good stuff. So let's get started. By way of introduction, for those who don't know, my name is Dan Diaz. I was born in Mexico City, raised in San Antonio, Texas. I began my real estate investing career in November of 2015. At the time, I was general manager for Palm Harbor Homes. I didn't know anything really about real estate investing, except that I wanted to achieve financial freedom, and I began educating myself. I considered myself an owner finance a fanatic and a student, and that's what I really started focusing my attention on. First deal generated me $80,000 in upfront profit and a $400 monthly cash flow. And guys, I was absolutely hooked moving forward. Now I mostly raise private capital to fund owner finance transactions. I teach seller financing as an acquisitions tool. And we still try to buy as much site-built single-family homes, mobile homes, other small commercial assets that we can kind of get our hands on as much as we can. We got some people on the feed. So, hey, how's it going? Mr. Ray Pantak, super shark of the group. If you guys don't know him, definitely want to get to know him. He originates notes. He lends money. He buys notes. And overall is a super awesome guy to get to know. We got a couple more Facebook users that say hey in San Antonio. I don't know who y'all are. So if you guys can give permission to StreamYard, that'd be great. I consider myself an owner finance fanatic on a personal level. I love a good dry red wine, a stiff scotch, a cold beer, good company. International travel, I think that's been the biggest hardest part during the whole pandemic. The fact that my wife and I can't travel a whole lot. We don't have any kids. We've been married for 3 years, and we do have a red heeler for a pet. Why was this group created? I believe as the financial markets change, our survival will depend on our ability to swim these uncertain and tumultuous seas. Moving forward, I believe that acquiring properties with seller financing will be paramount to growing our portfolio and yours as well. What can you expect to get out? I've made a personal commitment to use this platform to share our experience, our tools, and our skills to help you sharpen your own creative financial acquisition teeth and help you become sharks in your own market and with your own opportunities. I brought together a small group of individuals who are also like-minded and who originate notes and are involved in owner financing to help you achieve that goal. Some of them, you know them by name. I do want to give honor and praise to them because they do form an integral part of the great white sharks of the group. And some of those are Haroldo Villarreal, Charles Hernandez, Zach Coppinger, Ricardo Rosales, Aaron Sams, RJ Bates III, Robert Ibarra, Dan Satofsky, Justin Flowers, Jeff Falali, Manuel Cerrillo Jr., Srigan, and Ray Pantak. Full disclosure, someone asked me, do those people pay you to say their names? And the answer is no. Most of those people I've done business with in the past, all of them, I know them personally. And these are individuals that whenever they say something in the group or whenever they comment, I really want you to listen to them and listen to what they have to say because they're contributing from experience and they definitely have something to share with the group. What do I expect from you guys? There's expectations for you guys as well, and the expectations are simple: for you to be sharks. Now, to me, sharks is an acronym that identifies somebody who S, succeeds mercilessly, H, hates mediocrity, A, accepts no excuses, R, resolves to be action takers, K, kills their bad habits, and S, shares what they learn here. I expect you guys to be sharks. A little bit about the group. We recently achieved a new benchmark, and we have 2,350 members, and I'm super happy for you guys. I welcome you. 19 were added this past week, and I'm super happy for y'all. Please, if y'all find value in the presentation that's given on a weekly basis, in the guests that we bring along, and me being here, in the input, in the environment, in the education, please. My goal is to get to 10,000 members, and I can't do that alone. So please invite your rehabbers, wholesalers in your markets, people that you know are interested in real estate investing. That would mean the absolute world to me. We've got we want to move along, and I do want to let you guys know that we've got a special guest with us today. His name is Mark Moniz, and what I really liked about connecting with this gentleman is that he solves one of the biggest problems when it comes to owner financing, which is the money aspect of things. So anyways, I do want to welcome to the group, and I want to invite you guys to give a big warm welcome to Mark Moniz. Please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're at, what you do, and the value that you can provide to the group. Platform's all you, my friend.
Thank you, Dan. So my name is Mark Moniz. And is the sound okay?
Yes, sound is good.
Sounds good. Okay. So I live in Oceanside, California, which is in San Diego County, and I've been here since 2006 in Oceanside. So back in 2005, I actually was living up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I lost my job, and didn't know what to do. At the time, my girlfriend said, get into real estate, because they knew people make money in real estate. And my mom said, get into real estate. I had never bought a house, never done anything in real estate. And so what I did is I went on LinkedIn at the time, and I typed in real estate investor, and connected to someone and said, hey, is it okay if I meet you for lunch? And I still remember this. I took him out to Macaroni Grill, and I bought him lunch, and basically I picked his brain. I said, how do I get started?
Interrupt. The sound is a little bit delayed and distorted. I don't know if it's your connection.
Is it better? Should I put headphones? Does it help?
Actually, that was a lot better. I don't know what you did, and I'm going to mute myself. But I don't know what you did.
I didn't do anything. Is it okay right now? May I just move closer to the mic? I'm not sure.
Actually, it's still
but what I was saying is I went
off. You want to try a headset? But it might be.
Let me try a headset.
I don't think it's a volume issue.
Is that any
I think
better?
So. Yeah. Sorry.
How's
that's
that?
much better. I think so. Yeah.
Is it better? Is it? Okay. So I forget where I was. I was saying lost my job, and my mom and girlfriend at the time said get into real estate. So I went onto LinkedIn and typed in real estate investor, and I met someone and took him to Macaroni Grill, bought him lunch, and basically picked his brain and said, how do I get started? And he introduced me to someone who was flipping houses in Sacramento. And so I drove 2 hours to Sacramento to meet him. And he told me how I get started, look for boarded up houses and overgrown weeds and things like that. And I did a mailing, and someone responded to a postcard. And then I called him up and I said, hey, what do I do now? And he said, basically accept the offer. And I ended up joint venturing. I ended up partnering with him, and we flipped that house. And after that, I got involved with wholesaling and started wholesaling full time. I joined the local RIA in Sacramento and met other wholesalers and became a full time wholesaler in Sacramento. I ended up moving from the Bay Area to Sacramento. Later on, at the end of 2006, I got married and ended up moving down to Southern California, which is where we are now in Oceanside. And 2009, we bought our primary house in Oceanside. I was still kind of wholesaling. The market had now basically bubble had burst, and I started doing short sales with brokers. So I set up a company, was referring deals to brokers, and my company was taking 30% of commission once they closed the sale. A lot of the deals were taking a lot longer because short sales take a long time, and a lot of deals fell out of escrow. And long story short, my neighbor asked me, how's business? I said, kind of slow, not that great. And she's like, give me your resume. And gave her my resume. And next thing, I got a call from the lieutenant colonel saying, hey, we'd like to have you come in for an interview. And I live in Oceanside, which is right next to Camp Pendleton. There's a Marine Corps base. Went out to Camp Pendleton, and they offered me a position as a buyer and actually at the time it was for the Navy. So even though it's a Marine base, I was a buyer for the Navy on the Marine base. And except I actually still have a full-time job. I was with the Navy, now I'm actually with the Marine Corps. So I've been there since 2009. And that's my full-time job. And I've been doing real estate on the side. So after the wholesaling, 2010, 11, 12, at that time my wife and I drove out to the desert, and great time to buy rentals. We wanted to get rentals. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I wanted passive income. We had no passive income. And we ended up talking ourselves out of it. We said it's too far. Who are we going to get to fix up the houses? How are we going to get tenants? Who are we going to get to manage the tenants? And we both went back to our jobs. At the time, we had no kids, and we were comfortable. I had a good job working at on base. My wife is a therapist, occupational therapist. She had a good job, and so we were comfortable. And we ended up doing nothing. One of the best houses in the desert, $50,000 for a house. Not the best neighborhoods, but not the worst neighborhoods either. And we ended up doing nothing. And a couple of years passed, and I said, I'd rather have 50% of something than 100% of nothing. And then I'd ask people, hey, do you want to partner? It's like, I've got a job, I can get financing. And I ended up meeting someone on Facebook who introduced me to someone. He said, all I do is flip. I don't have rentals, but I know someone that's got about 30 rentals. And he said, is it okay if I introduce you? And I said, sure. And so my wife and I went out, met him, and spent the day with him. He showed us his operations, and we ended up buying 4 houses with him, which we still hold as rentals. Nice. And he owned a construction company, so he couldn't qualify traditionally. I've got a government job, so for me it was easy to get financing. I mean, I could, I've got the tax returns and the credit score, so it's no problem. And so it was kind of win-win. We both put half the down, and I got the financing, and we just split everything 50-50. After that, I got involved with trust deeds, buying trust deeds, notes. I met someone out of Los Angeles who's big into syndications. So invested in a couple mobile home park funds, another mobile home park in Alabama, self-storage unit in Florida, and actually a shopping center, probably not too far from where you are, in Texas, in Katy, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Katy, Texas. I've never been. I've never seen the center. But so I've invested in a few syndications. What else? Back then in 2019, I randomly asked someone on Facebook, hey, do you want a joint venture? And ended up doing an owner finance. What's that?
Did you know him?
I didn't know him. I knew the other guy that's a flipper here in San Diego. Okay. And he posted something on his thread. And then I just said, hey, do you want a joint venture? And he was doing subject to type deals and owner finance deals. And we ended up buying a house for cash. It was a cheap house, $12,000, and ended up selling it for like $24,000 with owner financing. So that was my first entry into owner financing. And then last year, I partnered with someone in Tucson, Arizona, bought a house subject to. So I put up the money and ended up selling it on a lease option. So we still we still rent it out. So I guess it's a lease with an option to buy. So it's still our house. And we split it 50-50. And so a lot of the stuff I've done, it's kind of partnerships or joint ventures, whatever you want to call it. And I kind of structured it so it's when, you know, I benefit, they benefit. And so on the last 2 deals, what I've done is brought money to the deal. And we just split it 50-50. So on the subject 2 deal, it was like around 18.5. So I put up the 18.5 to bring up the back payments and escrow costs. And I think he did like 1,000, 1,100 or 1,200 on some fix up minor stuff. Sure. And we just hold it. And the cash flow on that is just under 600 a month. So we each split about 300 a month in cash flow. So for him, it's an infinite return, but you know, he did the work.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just under, on the cash flow, it's just under 20%. Mm-hmm. So it's, you know, it's win-win, and it was a good deal. And so I'm looking to do more deals like that, where I put the funds in and we split the cash flow.
Nice. So you're man, that's an awesome story. So a couple questions or a couple things kind of stand out. One is you didn't necessarily, and I'm curious if this was by choice mm-hmm. or if this is just the way things kind of worked out. But you did not necessarily put your money to work in California.
No, that's not true. So the rentals that I still have are in California. So I live in San Diego County, and a couple hours from here, if you go east, you go into the desert, where houses are a lot less expensive than the coast. Houses are very expensive on the coast, but if you go towards the desert, it's called Coachella Valley, and big price difference, the desert versus the coast. And so the houses that I bought with my partner, we still have them, and they're in the desert, and we rent those out.
Gotcha. So what? And it sounds like you've partnered on pretty different asset classes, because I heard a mobile home park.
Yeah. So on the mobile home parks, technically that wouldn't be partnering. I'm a limited partner, okay. One of several limited partners. And it's a syndication, so you have an operator.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so operator puts the deal together, and they get limited partners. So I'm like one of many. So basically, I just invested. So my risk is my funds. I can't legally be held liable for, you know, someone slips and falls or injures themselves. They'd go after the general partners.
Yeah.
My risk would be what I put into the deal.
Correct. And then I heard also a strip mall. Is it the Katy?
Yes.
Right. So I'm curious, with the whole pandemic, how are your rentals doing in regards to the moratorium that we got? Are they paying?
Yes, fortunately, and so I've got the one in Texas, the 4 here in California. I've got one in Tennessee also, in suburb of Memphis. It's Cordova, Tennessee, which I partnered up with someone that does a lot of deals in Tennessee. Knock on wood, we've had good tenants, and they're still working and been paying.
Good.
So, yeah.
Good.
The one investment which has not been doing good is the one actually in Texas, the strip mall in Katy, Texas.
Yeah. And some of the tenants stopped paying, or
yeah, that's a kind of a complicated story. The owners or the founders of the company actually did some embezzling, and yeah, it was actually it's a family business. So it's the dad, the actual founder, took, I want to say, I don't know how much it was. I want to say it's something like $10 million out of the company, and they stopped distributions. And the authorities involved now, and they're actually based out of Canada. So it's the Canadian authorities that are involved, and it makes it complicated. And COVID was just like the nail in the coffin. once COVID hit, because they had already stopped before COVID. And then when COVID came, it just made things worse. So I haven't been paid on that in a year and a half, I want to say.
Oh my God.
On the King, Texas strip mall.
Well, I'm glad you haven't given up on Texas. I mean, we are a great state. I'm gonna say blame Canada on that one. Nice, that's nice. Well, I definitely appreciate your story. I think there's a lot of value that you can bring to the book. What would make sense for you? What would make sense for you as a lender / partner in a deal? So if you can kind of describe and share with the audience what would make sense for you. What would
Okay. So in the beginning, especially if I don't know the person, I want to stick to smaller type deals. So when I say smaller, subject to deal where the cost is $25,000 or less to get into the deal, or say a seller finance deal where they want $20,000, or if it's an inexpensive property somewhere in the middle of the country, and say it's a $30,000 house that you could sell for $60,000. Something like that. As I scale in the future, those numbers will increase. So instead of 25,000, it may be 100,000 or 150,000. And as I work with more people, but in the beginning, I want to keep the numbers a little bit on the lower side, just for safety and getting to know one another.
Yeah, very nice. I think that's super important. I see a lot of novice investors, and when they hear of private lenders, they kind of want to jump your bones, and it's like, hey, let's go on a couple dates first.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to see is have them done that they should have done at least, say, 3 deals. So if they've done, say, 3 deals, they've got a little bit of experience, and then now here's the money, let's work together. So I don't want to be the first deal that they've ever done.
Nobody wants to be the first one. Nobody wants to be the first ones. Very nice.
And if you look at like everyone I've partnered with, they've got way more experience than myself. For instance, the guy in the desert, at the time, he had already 30 or 35 houses. The guy I partnered with that's doing deals in Tennessee, he's flipping over 50 houses a year. So like one a week he's flipping, and he holds rentals and multi-units and things like that. So the people that I've partnered with are very experienced. And know a lot more than I do.
Yeah, that's always super important. The level of experience that someone brings. Nice.
And that's how we got started, because when we tried to do it ourselves, we ended up doing nothing. And then I said to myself, I'd rather take 50% of something than 100% of nothing, because I tried 100% and got nowhere.
You got nowhere. Very smart. Very smart. And something I like about you is that you were humble enough to kind of realize, okay, I know what I have, but I also know what I don't have. So let me focus on what I do have, what I can bring to the table. And let me just look for individuals that can supplement what I don't have or what I lack. That's super smart. In general, I think.
Yeah. And at the time when I first started, it was basically my credit. Having a government job, and partnering with people that were self-employed, and they couldn't get conventional financing where I could. And so to them, that was a value.
Yeah. We partner with, we call them credit partners. We partner with individuals very similar to yourself, that they've got the beautiful W-2 income on lease options in Texas. I don't know how familiar you are with lease options, but that's a great strategy, because you've got the job, you've got the credit, and you've got money. But you don't have the experience. You don't know how, real estate investing numbers work. You know that they work, know something out there. But man, that's super, super smart. Ray says half a pie is better than no pie. That is so true. He says those are the kind of deals we like to do: buy for 25,000, fix for 5, and sell for 60. Ray, they're not all like that, Ray. Don't be greedy. Sometimes you got to put more than 5 into them. Super, super experience. Well, man, I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your background. If it's okay with you,
Yeah.
what I'd like for you to do is in your where it's got your name, if you want to provide, or maybe in the comments section, you can do it now or later. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it'll stay on. Contact information if you would like for viewers to get a hold of you. So definitely do that. And if it's okay with you, I'd love for you to stay for the Q&A. We got some really cool questions, and I'd love to get your input on that. Is that something you're open to?
Yeah, definitely.
Nice, nice, nice. So for those of you guys who are listening, these questions came from the group. So these are people who posted questions in the group, and we're going to go ahead and answer and kind of give our input on these questions. So if you have questions about purchasing with seller financing, selling with owner financing, notes, wraps, hypothecation, origination, RMLOs, private money lending, all of that's got to do along the lines of owner financing, I highly recommend that you post them in the group, and that's how we go ahead. I go ahead and kind of extract them every week. So Clayton has got a question. How would I be listed on the insurance policy if I'm a FSBO lien holder? It's a first and only position. So he gave the option, should I be listed as lien holder, as mortgagee, or as other? And the only thing I can think of is, to me, a mortgagee is the same as a lien holder. So I don't know if maybe there's a little bit of confusion, but the way it's set up on an insurance policy, you're the mortgagee, Clayton. You go ahead and make sure that you're listed as mortgagee. The owner finance buyer is listed as the name insured. You say there's no other mortgages. If there were other mortgages, those would be additional mortgagees. And if they want to include any other insured individuals, they can go ahead and do so. So that's kind of the way it's listed. I don't know if this was a subject to purchase and you wrapped it. It doesn't sound like it because it says that you're the first and only position. This sounds to me like you bought it with cash and you went ahead and owner financed it and you put yourself as a first position. So you're going to be the mortgagee. Now, if you're buying subject to, and let's say that the underlying mortgage is Wells Fargo, they're going to be the first mortgagee, and you as an investor are going to be the second mortgagee. So let's say, for example, Dan buys a property subject to, owner finances it to Phil. On the insurance policy, Wells Fargo is going to be the first mortgagee. Dan, LLC, is going to be the second mortgagee. And then Phil is going to be the name insured. Is that about right, Mr. Mark?
Sounds right to me, Dan.
It can get complicated a little bit with insurance policies. And if you guys have a little bit of trouble with insurance policies in the group, there's a gentleman, Red Manny. He's from Goosehead. He's real good with insurance policies, and he understands how to do wrap mortgages. So definitely hit him up. Martha's got another question, which I think you'll find it interesting, Mark. She says, I'm buying real estate notes from a private lending company. These are strictly notes for investment properties, and the borrowers are all investors doing flips. So she's buying hard money loans. My tax accountant is advising me to just hold the notes personally because it's less paperwork. He says since they are going to be bought through a third party, the company I'm buying them from assumes liability, so I don't have to hold them in an LLC. Can anyone speak to this and confirm if that's the case? Also, what kind of liability would I need protection from anyways, since it's just a note? Oh, man. So my thoughts on this is anytime anybody that I'm paying for, an attorney, a CPA, an accountant, whoever you are, Martha, is telling me do this because it's less paperwork, to me, that's just a red flag. Don't ever tell me that the reason I need to do this is because it's less paperwork. And the analogy that I can think of is, it's less paperwork not to do your taxes. Is that really what you want to do? I mean, that makes no sense. So that to me is a red flag. But to kind of also address the issue that kind of arose to me as a red flag is the CPA, which probably has no education on legal liabilities and should not be giving legal advice, is advising you that the seller is going to assume the liability. I don't know how you feel about this, Mark, but I feel that the buyer will assume some liability. So even though it's just a note that you're buying, you are assuming as well the benefits and responsibilities of that note, and therefore the liabilities. The way the paperwork is structured may be able to limit your liabilities, but I would never put them under my name. What are your thoughts, Mark? Would you put them under your name?
I do have some notes under my name.
Okay.
Well, these are short-term notes that are fix and flip, so they don't really stay in my name that long. I work with a broker here in San Diego who's a hard money lender. So he vets the deals, he originates it all. And I just put up the cash, and they're usually 6-month notes. And they pay off, and it's done. So I do have.
You are a first lien position on those notes, right?
Yes, yeah. Their first position notes. If it was a long-term hold, I'd say definitely use an LLC. The ones I'm doing that they're short-term. Sometimes they're 3 months and they're in and out, so they're very short-term. But for instance, on the lease option that I have in Texas, we've got that in an LLC. The note I did, that cheap house, that's in an LLC. The problem here in California is it's at $800 for each LLC. It's $800 a year. So to have multiple LLCs can get cost prohibitive in California. So that's just something to be aware of.
Welcome to Texas. It's like $1.95 here.
That's why you see all these people, Elon Musk and others, leaving California for Texas.
Property taxes are high, so that is something we got. But yeah, for sure. Good deal. Good question, Martha. Good question. Eugenio. I love him. He did the 10-hour owner finance training, and man, he's just taken off. He loves it. As a question, when doing a wraparound on a property acquired subject to, so if you acquired the property subject to, and he's doing a wraparound mortgage, would you consider buyer request to not escrow property taxes? They want to pay them themselves to make the numbers work. So what are your thoughts, Mark? Escrow, yes, or escrow, no?
I don't like the. I'd want to make sure that the taxes are paid. I've taken it over. If you've taken it over subject to, I'd like to have some sort of control and verify at least that the taxes and insurance are paid.
So they are being paid. Yeah, they are being paid by the underlying mortgage, but he's talking about the wraparound buyer. He doesn't.
And I'm not sure why he doesn't want to escrow that amount.
That's my first question. It's like, what's going on, homeboy? Why are you not wanting it?
And the only thing I can think of is when you said make the numbers work, is he having trouble making that full payment? And that's why he needs to make those numbers work, which is a red flag. I would try and have it escrowed and have an impound account where the whole amount is taxes and insurance, and the underlying note payment is made together. And if he can't afford that, it may not be the right property for him.
I agree, 100%. I knew that there was a regulation surrounding it, so I did a little bit of research on it, and I did find it in the Chicken Fried Peanut Butter Consumer Federal Protection Bureau. I remember that CFPB, Chicken Fried Peanut Butter. That's the way I remember it. But it's the bureau that oversees all the Dodd-Frank regulation, all that good stuff. And here's what I found. The seller is an owner finance transaction subject to higher priced mortgage lending regulation. He must establish an escrow account. Section 226.35B3I states, and I quote, a creditor may not extend a loan secured by a first lien on a principal dwelling unless an escrow account is established before consummation for payment of property taxes and premiums for mortgage-related insurance required by the creditor, such as insurance against loss and or damage of the property or against liability arising from the ownership of use of the property, or insurance protecting the creditor against the consumer's default or other credit losses. So here's where it gets a little bit gray. There's no indication that the impound account has to be monthly. He could, hypothetically, load the account when he closes at the consummation for a year, and then the following year load it for another year. Mm-hmm. In theory, I mean, there's a kind of a gray area. It doesn't say that it needs to be paid on a monthly basis, that the impound account needs to be paid monthly. But for you to simply let the buyer pay it on their own, it goes against higher priced mortgage lending regulations, Dodd-Frank. But more importantly, I think, and I agree with Mark, it's a very dangerous situation. If they're saying that the numbers need to work, to me, that sounds that they're having a hard time with the monthly payment. And if they're having a hard time with the monthly payment, they're not going to be able to save up the money for the property taxes at the end of the year. So to me, that's a no-go. We don't let any of our buyers pay their own taxes. I don't trust them. I mean, that's the truth. I make it as easy as I can on myself. And I think you should too, Hogan, on this one. Derek, my buyers at 1553 Caldwell are running into some roadblocks. I was hoping you could help me think through. They are my neighbors on the same street. I want to buy the house for their daughter. Their homestead is paid off. They have $30,000 plus closing costs to put down on a $150,000 purchase price. Like that already? It's 20%. That's going to leave them with a $120,000 loan for 30 years at 9%. I like the interest rate. I like the structure. The father earns good income and has a business. He gets paid cash but keeps everything at his house under the mattress. I know my people. They do that. He has $13,000 in a bank account but no deposit history to show his income. He did not file taxes in 2019. Shocker. They own 4 rental houses free and clear. They do not have leases currently on those properties, and they get paid cash each month for rent. They receive $4,700 per month in gross rent cash that they don't deposit or declare. The daughter has $9,000 in savings and earns $18,000 on her last year's taxes. Right now, our strategy is to put everything on the loan and use their combined incomes and accounts. How do I get this deal done? They seem to be very qualified buyers, minus the documentation. And I know that there is a way to handle these issues. Another thought I had was if the father was purchasing the home in his name and it was another investment property, that I would not need this documentation to be compliant. That's actually correct. If it's an investment property, Dodd-Frank goes out the window. I did not want to consider this alternative until I had exhausted all attempts to go through RMLO, and the advice may be to use an RMLO no matter what, but if it wasn't a consumer loan and it was for investment property, maybe this is a different case. I'm wanting to learn. Thanks for your help. I'm frustrated, but I really think I'm close to this one. Help! So I don't know if you got all those notes, Mark, and I don't know how knowledgeable you feel here, but it sounds to me like they've got a buyer with pretty good skin in the game, 20% down. Mm-hmm. Which I love. I love that. And it looks like he's got a lot of non-reportable, non-documentable income. But it sounds like he can pay for the home at a 9% interest rate. What are some of your thoughts, Mark?
Well, like you said, he sounds very qualified. They've got the down payment and they've got the income, especially with those rental properties. So they've got quite a bit of cash coming in. So it looks like they're very, very well qualified to be able to afford the payment on the property. I would just sort of, and I'm not sure what documentation is required in terms of the whole RMLO part of it. But if it were me, I would document all that income coming in, whether it's through a bank statement or something, to show that they are qualified to make that payment, and that they're not in over their head, something to that effect.
Yeah. So that was kind of my first thought process. I don't know who you're using as the RMLO, but first of all, good job, for using an RMLO. That's absolutely the way it should be done. But secondly, the relationship between a lender and an RMLO is an interesting relationship because they're going to bear some of the responsibilities for the underwriting. That's what they're there for. That's their job. That's what they're licensed for. However, the lender will also bear responsibility. So what we've done in situations like these is what I like to call the raise your right hand and promise me that you can pay situation. It's not something I recommend, and obviously that's an exaggeration. We don't do it that way. But what we do is we create the documentation, so to speak, based upon verbal statements. So for example, the rental income. If they're saying that 4 houses brings in $4,700 per month, first thing I would do is does this seem accurate based upon market rent? If it seems accurate, that's already a good thing. 2, can they make 1 month's deposits? I mean, this is reasonable. If they can make 1 month's deposits, then a simple affidavit that's notarized where they say, hey, these people have been in place for these amount of months, and this is how much they pay me. I pay in cash. I don't deposit it. I did deposit it for the sake of documentation this month. That would work for me. I can't imagine that they would let tenants live rent-free. So that would be something that I would do. So I would check with the RMLO and see what kind of alternative documentation are they comfortable with. And then you as a lender kind of come together. To me, this is a situation where it shouldn't be terribly hard to find non-conventional documentation for what's happening. I would include some sort of affidavit in there where you outline exactly what the what the monthly payment is going to be, and in one page, you outline and they sign and notarize it, even if you feel comfortable, so that it's somewhere in writing. The interesting part, and I've read most of Dodd-Frank regulation, is that it needs to be documented, but it doesn't really say how. It doesn't say it needs to be W-9, W-2. It doesn't say it needs to be 1099. It doesn't say it has to be a pay stub. It doesn't say it has to be a bank statement. How the documentation occurs is left up to the lender. It just needs to be documented. So if you believe, if it has a ring of truth, if you look at the addresses and it sounds like the rent is correct, maybe you go follow him 1 month and collect the rent with him. You do what you need to do to satisfy and document that income and submit that documentation to the RMLO. So there needs to be some conversations about that. Now, you also mentioned the possibility or the alternative of treating it as a rental property, and then Dodd-Frank goes out the window and you just go ahead and do a deal. You can do it this way. However, the question that I would always ask myself is, if I were before a judge, can I really defend this action? In other words, do you believe that it was used as an investment? Do you believe that he was adding it as a rental to his portfolio? Is that really what it sounded like? Or was this a disguised way to do an owner-occupied transaction? Judges, when it comes to real estate consumer transactions, tend to side in the favor of what does this smell like? What does this sound like? And what are you really trying to do? So just kind of be aware of it. But I think it's something that can be handled. I don't see this not being an unsurmountable situation. What do you think, Mark? Do you think this can be done?
I think it can be done. And I wanted to just add on what you were talking about with the judges, and one of the things that they look at also is intent. Like what is your intent? Are you trying to circumvent the law? Are you trying to? So what is your intent? So that's something that they do look at.
Yeah, no. And the thing is also, intent will come out when heated emotions come out. So the only time you're going to be in front of a judge is in a foreclosure situation. So they're going to tell the judge the truth. They're going to say, no, we were going to live in it, but he told us to just go ahead and put it up as an investment property. They will throw you under the bus. Mm-hmm. So if you think that you can just collude, because that's the legal term of what you may be trying to do, collude with the buyers to circumvent the law, no, that's not the route that you want to take. Now, if it's the buyer, if it's the dad that says, well, what if we just call this a rental property? What if I just say that I put it in my name and I'm going to go ahead and rent it to my daughter? That didn't come out of you. That's something you got to think about. Intent is super important if you're ever in front of a judge. God forbid you are, but that is important. Joe Swingle's got a question. When buying a property sub 2, how do you make sure the owner will still be able to buy another home if the mortgage is in their name? What are your thoughts, Mark?
I've had that question running in my head as well. But I think you can write some type of letter. Once they've made enough payments, it's seasoned, I believe. You can write a letter stating that the obligation has been taken over, or someone else is taking care of these payments, this other entity or this other individual, if I'm not mistaken. And that would help them qualify for a loan. Yeah.
So the answer that I like to give is I can't. I mean, plain and simple. I give answers, Mark, and I think you'll see it. I carry no responsibility. So when a seller is asking me, hey, how can you make sure that I can XYZ? I can't. I cannot guarantee the future. I don't know what the future holds. Purchasing and requalifying for a home has too many factors, too many variables that I can't say. Yes, one of the variables is going to be that there is a loan under your name. And yes, I can help you with that variable. Mm-hmm. But DTI, income, credit requirements, future banking regulations. I mean, I don't know what banking regulations are going to be next year. So there are way too many variables. I cannot guarantee the future. This is beyond my control. I can promise you that I can help. And if that helps you, great. But there is absolutely zero guarantee on my parts that I can do anything. You got to remember, Mr. Seller, we're going to role play. You got to remember, Mr. Seller, you're asking me, how can you guarantee that the other guy is going to lend me money? I can't make that guarantee. And yes, this will be an issue, full disclosure. We may be able to resolve that issue, like Mark said, with a simple letter of explanation. But I promise you that letter of explanation is only going to work if everything else is good in your file. If your DTI is low, if your down payment is strong, if your credit score is high. But if all those things are gray, I'm pretty sure that it doesn't matter what I'm going to write. It's just not going to match up. And that's not going to be my responsibility, and I won't be held liable for it. I've had those conversations, Mark. Mm-hmm. I tell them straight up. I'm like, I can't. I cannot guarantee the future. I think 2020 is like a witness of that. We really have no idea what the future holds. Come on, people, get it together. Another question, good question. We are having some trouble marketing these owner finance homes to end buyers on platforms like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and Zumper. You know what Zumper is? I've never heard of that.
I never heard of that.
Even Zillow on the for sale by owner side. We're trying to rent on Zillow now, but most of our ads are getting flagged for some reason. How do you usually go about complying with these platform rules? So again, I don't know exactly what you're putting in your ad, but I know that likely the more information you put, ironically, the more likely you're going to get flagged because there's going to be other information missing. I've noticed that online platforms like Zillow and even Facebook Marketplace, they don't really like the concept of owner financing to buyers. So this is the way we market to owner finance buyers. We do very generic posts that say 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, owner financing available. Call this 24/7 recorded line for information. Now that 24/7 recorded line is a line that we purchase on livecom.com. I know many of y'all have heard me talk about that site. The founder, the owner, by the way, is Mitch Stevens, which is a big owner finance guy. He doesn't pay me a dime to talk good about his site. As a matter of fact, we pay I think our tab with Livecom is like $1,200 a month. I mean, we pay a lot of money to them. But what I really like, and just information for you, Mark, as well, I don't know if you knew about livecom.com, but it captures the phone number, puts it on a database, and then you can mass text it. That's really all it does. So on the thing about owner financing is whenever you market it, you're going to get tons of calls, and 95% are going to be total tire kickers. So what you need to do is go ahead and do ads, not really listing the property, not giving the address, not saying anything. Just real simple, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, or 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, or even just home on south part of town or whatever. Owner financing available. Call this 24/7 recorded hotline, if you want to call it, a recorded line for information. I would recommend you do one in English, you do one in Spanish, because half of your buyers are going to be Spanish speaking only. When they call that number, in that recording, that's where you put everything. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,500 square foot ranch style homes built in 1972. This is the address, 123 Main Street. This is what we like about the home. These are the repairs that it needs, or maybe it's been completely flipped, or whatever. That's where you do the full description, zip codes, neighborhoods, school districts, everything that's needed in it. And then at the end you say, owner financing is available. It will require, fill in the blank, $30,000 to close. If you're ready to buy and you have that money now, what I want you to do is to go to the address, 123 Main Street, check out the neighborhood, and make sure it fits for you. Make sure the neighborhood works for you. If the neighborhood works for you and you're ready to see the home inside, there's going to be another telephone number on the window or the door where you can set up a tour. Now the number on the door, the telephone number on the door or on the window, that's the one that's going to connect either to you or to your real estate agent or to your disposition manager or to whoever you're using to actually show the homes. So when that phone rings, you know it's somebody who's already heard the entire ad, you know it's somebody who claims to have the down payment, and you know who's somebody who claims to be ready to buy now. And fourth, they've already done something for you. They already went to the neighborhood and looked at the home. So all of these things kind of already work. We don't advertise on Facebook Marketplace or Zillow with like the traditional full ads because they will get flagged. I don't know why. You're asking me why they get flagged. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe because they think we're going to vote Trump. I don't know why things get flagged nowadays. But what I tell you doesn't get flagged is the very generic home for sale, owner financing available. Call this number 24/7 for details and use a livecom.com recording. So anyways, hope that helps you. Let us know in the group if that works out for you.
Dan, I had a question on that. Are they able on that Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or wherever they're advertising or Zillow, are they able to put a link? Does it allow them to put a link to refer to maybe their website where they could have more details? Is that an option?
Sometimes it does. See, this is the thing, Mark, about Facebook Marketplace, Zillow as well. I think they're very regulated, which, I mean, I imagine. And it's one of those things that if you're a real estate agent, for example, I guess you know everything that you need to put to stay compliant. Mm-hmm. But if you're just an owner finance investor, I've found that you don't want to. So if you put a triggering term, like for example, $30,000 down, that's a triggering term. Then there's a whole mess of stuff that you gotta also do, and there's no space for it. Zillow and Facebook Marketplace don't really there's no really allocation. That's one thing. The other thing is Facebook Marketplace, it gets flagged a lot by other people. they think they associate owner financing with scams. They associate owner financing with, investors, and there's a lot of, they flag you a lot as well. So the algorithm doesn't really, at least that's my experience. I agree with him. We did it, and every once in a while we'll try like a random listing to put it, and it gets flagged right away. But what also we have found, Mark, is that very rarely do we match up one house to one buyer. If they love the home, they don't have the down payment. If they have the down payment, they don't like the home. Like, you're trying to match up a lot of things to the same situation, and you can't always. So what we find is just use Facebook as a general, and Zillow if you can, but use Facebook as a general lead generation. Try to find out everyone that has, you got to figure out a way. It's a shotgun approach where you're just blasting the world, but it's not occupying your time. Mm-hmm. And using this marketing loop works really well for us. If you put, your phone number, you're going to get bombarded. If you put a website, I don't know if you can put a link. I think you can, but if you put a link, then what? What's the next step? How do they?
Well, I was just wondering if they could put all the details on the house in that website. Let's say they've got a different website, and those details would get flagged on Zillow or Facebook Marketplace. But on your website, it's fine. You could put whatever. Maybe you can even do like a video walkthrough where you've got a camera and you're going through the house, and they can, from the comfort of their own home, see what it looks like.
So I see that working. I do see that working, but again, not with the full homes for sale platforms that Facebook offers, because you do have to put all that information. If you don't put all the information, then it gets flagged. Mm-hmm. If you don't put the price, the interest rate, the down payment, the address, everything, then it does get flagged. But I do see what you're saying as a possible benefit. Instead of Lifecom number, use a link. But again, the platform is not the Facebook Marketplace. It's just the generic Facebook group ads, the flea markets, pulgas, buy, sell, trades, junk for sale, house for sale, land for sale, but in the format of a discussion post. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it might work, the whole link. And then what? How do they get a hold of you? Is it going to be a number that connects directly to you, or is it going to be a Lifecom number, or is it going to be a form they're going to fill out?
Good questions.
Again, what happens is if you put your number, they're going to bombard you with calls. Yeah. So that's the reason I really like Lifecom number, because I've seen our data. We can post in about 100 groups, one 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, one phone number, and about 100 groups in San Antonio, and we will have about 8,000 calls in 48 hours.
Wow. Can
you imagine if they were actually calling me? Mm-hmm. or if they were calling a live person? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I know that they're all tire kickers. Well, not all, because we do eventually find buyers, but most of them are tire kickers because on the phone number that's on the house, after they heard the recording and after they went to the neighborhood and after I put them to work already and after they claim they have the down payment, the phone numbers on the house, it might be like 10 a week. So we go from 8,000 potential leads that could be, blowing up my number or my, disposition guide numbers or my agent's numbers, down to 10 people. And these are 10 people that claim to have the down payment, that I already know went to the neighborhood, that they already took time out of their schedule to check out the house outside, that it seems to work with what they're looking for. I can find a buyer from them. Mm-hmm. So, good question. In my 10-hour training, I go over pretty detailed our marketing loop that we use with Lifecom.com, and I give a whole bunch of other examples. So total shameless plug. Let me know on the DMs if you guys want it. It's us $300. It's over 10 hours of information. Last question for the night, it seems. Also from Philip. It says this is This is further to my current deal. I'm looking for advice on closing this the best way possible. Aren't we all, Philip? No, I'm just kidding. Just to clarify, I'm looking to buy owner financing. So this is just a pet peeve of mine, but it helps me, guys, if you guys are listening. When I'm buying, I like to call it seller financing. When I'm selling, I like to call it owner financing. It's not set in stone. It allows me to keep the transaction, like I know on what side of the transaction. Is it the A to B where I'm buying it, or is it the B to C where I'm selling it? The seller is going to sell to me with seller financing, and I, as the owner, will sell it off with owner financing. Anyways, that's just me. It's a pet peeve of mine. But anyways, words mean things. I like to keep things separate. I'm looking to buy owner finance or seller finance with a balloon at 10 years. I want to sell the B2C transaction, owner finance, to an end buyer, but I'm having trouble with the terms on the purchase side, the A to B. This is a 6-property deal, but they're all pretty much the same, so I'm just going to state the facts for one for the sake of simplicity. Please offer your thoughts. Term, 10 years, non-negotiable to seller, main pain point. I talked to him. He's an 85-year-old man. He thinks he's going to live to 95. Little does he know. He's going to live to 105. Balloon, yes, at 10 years. Fair market value, $90,000. Repairs, $10,000 in repairs. The end buyer payments are likely $1,100 to $1,200 PITI. And the down payment is likely 5 to 10% purchase price, which I plan to list for at least $120,000. Can you comment on the seller terms and also what you recommend would be the end buyer terms? I don't know about you, Mark. I had a lot of questions on this one when I read it, so I reached out to Philip privately and I said, hey, homeboy, can you clarify a few things? What's your problem? What's the core issue here? So the core issue here is this. He wants to know how to structure the whole 10-year balloon. So far what he's got is a 30-year amortization with a 10-year balloon. The seller is apparently okay. Him wrapping it, owner financing it, all that is totally cool. He hasn't talked about interest rate, which kind of concerns me. That could be a, make it or break it. What are you going to be buying at? But he feels pretty confident that it's going to be a fair market interest rate. So he's thinking 3 to 5%. If that's the case, then this is kind of a home run situation. How would you deal, Mark? I'd love to get your opinion. How would you deal with a situation where you're buying with a 10-month balloon? I'm sorry, a 10-year balloon, but you're selling on owner finance with no balloons? What would be a couple of ways that you would get yourself out of that pickle in 10 years?
Well, one thing is maybe on the buy, see if you can negotiate that balloon. Maybe you can negotiate out of that balloon up front. So there is a balloon on the buy. That's one thing to consider. But let's say he did buy with a balloon and selling with owner finance. Honestly, I'm not sure what.
I caught you off guard. I'm sorry.
Off guard.
So this is what I would do. So again, I when I like to think things through, I like to think of them in real simple terms. Mm-hmm. My problem here, should I choose to accept this problem, is that in 10 years, I need to raise X amount of money to satisfy my obligation. To me, those are simple terms. In 10 years, I got to figure out a way to come up with a lump sum of money to satisfy the balloon payment. So the first thing that I can think of is this. If he is buying it at $90,000 and he is owner financing it at $120,000, that's a $30,000 equity position that he's putting himself in, which I think is very decent. It's only going to expand that equity position as the years go by. So in 10 years, there's a couple different ways to do it, but essentially it comes down to two ways. It really comes down to two ways. One, Raise the private capital through a loan, or raise the capital through the sale of the note. That's really the two ways that you can accomplish this. Of course, the third way is to simply take money out of your operating account, and pay off the balloon. But we're going to go under the assumption that you don't have the money, or you don't want to use your allocated capital, to pay off the balloon. But that would be a third way. But essentially, you got to raise the capital. First thing I would do is I would make sure that this note has tight books, because in 10 years, if you make yourself bankable, you can go ahead and get a loan where you pledge the note as collateral. Small community banks may be open to do this. The way you got to talk about your note is you got to talk about it as an accounts receivable. There are banks who will lend on accounts receivables. If I did some rough math on this one, and in 10 years, your $90,000 note to the lender will probably have a balance of about $73,000. Again, I don't know the interest rate, so I use 4%. And your note to the owner finance buyer will have a balance of somewhere around $108,000. So the difference between $73,000 and $108,000 is substantial. I don't see why you couldn't, if you made yourself bankable in 10 years, go to a small community bank and say, hey, listen, I'd like to borrow against my note of $108,000, which, by the way, has a house as collateral in a first lien position that's valued at 140 at this point, because of appreciation, 150,000 in 10 years. And I'd like to borrow only $73,000 here. So you're borrowing 73 against a collateral of 108. You're borrowing at about a 67% LTV position. I think most banks will be okay with this situation. I don't know what you think, Mark, but I think most banks will be very willing to look at a situation where they're lending a 70% LTV on a situation that has a collateral that's worth even more.
Yeah.
Option number 2, you can sell the note. I mean, that's another way of raising it. I think most note buyers will be happy with a performing 10-year note, a situation where you can go ahead and sell it. Now, if you sell the note, if that's what you want to do, I would do something else when you originate it. What I would do is I call this a dual note origination, or originate 2 notes. The first one is going to wrap your debt, which is $90,000. The second one is going to wrap your profit, which is $30,000. The $90,000 one, you're going to go ahead and owner finance at 9%, 9.25%, 9.5%, whatever it allows you to do a QM loan today. And the second one, because it's a second lien position note, you can do 2 percentile points over, so maybe owner finance it at 11.5%, 12%. Come year 10, you're going to have, again, a note that is at a 70% LTV situation with the original balance, but also a 40% LTV situation with the collateral, which is the house. So I cannot imagine that most note buyers, and Mark, I know you deal in note buying, how happy would you be getting a note that's been performing for 10 years? It's a third party note servicing that's about a 70% LTV at a 9 or 10% interest rate. I mean, would you want to look at something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I
mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, And if Mark doesn't want to look at it, talk to me, I'll look at it. I mean, these are great notes. Paperstack.com is a great website to also look at them. So in 10 years, that would be how I'd raise the capital. Now, here's the kicker, and here's where the fire's really going to come. In 10 years, I'd have a conversation with the seller. Oh, Mr. Seller, you're still alive. How do you feel about killing your monthly cash flow that you've been getting all these years? Is that really what you want to do? Or do you want to extend another year? Or maybe 2 years, or 3 years, or 5 years? So off the bat, I would have a conversation with the seller and say, hey, is this really what you want to do? If you do, we can go ahead and do that. Something else that I would also be having with the buyer, incentives. Maybe around year 8, offer him an incentive. Hey, listen, how's your credit looking? Do you think you can refinance? Because if the owner finance buyer refinances, that also solves your problem. So whenever I know I have a balloon situation, I would start prepping 2 to 3 years in advance with the owner finance buyer, if that's what you want to do. Hey, listen, let me help you. Let me help you with credit. Let me help you with seller concessions. Let me help you. How can I do to help you to get yourself in a situation? And if you did 2 notes, like I suggest you do, like we do, they only have to work on the first note, which is 90,000, instead of the entire note, which is 120. So they only have to focus on refinancing a smaller note. Having a lower LTV to refinance always helps when it comes to refinancing. So anyways, those are a few things that I would do. Total shameless plug, I talk very extensively in the 10-hour owner finance course about dual note origination and how much it can help you. Note buyers love it because they're taking a much safer position on the transaction. And it's a nice way to recycle your capital, and deal with balloons, in the future. But Philip, I don't think this is something you should be scared of at all. I like it. You like it, Mark? Would you do this deal?
Yep, sounds good.
I would in a heartbeat. Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed the live Q&A. I love to leave the audience with a final thought, and maybe just something to take you guys the rest of the week. And it's got to do along these lines. When it comes to advantages of becoming proficient in seller financing, a lot of, especially entry-level investors, beginning investors, they ask the question, how quickly can I get approved for a loan? How easy or how hard or how difficult can I get a conventional loan? And many times, because they've recently quit their 9-to-5 jobs, they've only been in business for a couple of months, because they're not like Mark, that they kept their nice government job for many years. You're not doing real estate on the side, you jumped in full time, you're not lendable. But guess what? A seller can approve you in 30 seconds or less. So just think about the power of getting financing for a property in 30 seconds or less. And that's just one of the powers of seller financing and becoming proficient in negotiating seller financing. Mark, what last thought do you have for the group?
I just want to say thank you, Dan, for this opportunity. And if there's anyone in your group I could help, someone that needs the capital, they're doing subject to, they're buying with seller financing, or they're buying deeply discounted, I'd love to be able to partner with them and put up the funds and then sell it on owner financing and split the cash flow.
Hey, that's a great way to do it. I went ahead and copied. You put your contact information in the private chat. I put it in the public chat. Is that okay?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because nobody sees the private chat.
Oh, okay.
Me. That's between you and me. Okay. So that's Mark's contact information. I've got it in the group. I've got it posted. Feel free to reach out to him. Full disclosure, I've had communications with Mark. Never done business together. I hope that changes in 2021. And as always, Mark, anyone who approaches you in the group, do your full diligence. I don't know these fools. No, I'm kidding. I do know a few of them, but if you want, I can give you feedback on a lot of them. But always, guys, whenever you're connecting individuals, y'all do your due diligence and make sure that you guys do what feels comfortable for you guys. I want to do a quick round to get to know Mark. I'm totally putting him on the spot because he didn't know this was coming. But let me ask you something, Mark. Real quick, what are you reading right now?
I'm reading a book called Fear by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Zen master, a Buddhist Zen master. And it's about being in the moment and about being mindful, about meditation, and about, if you think about most people, they're going through the day with a million thoughts running through their head, and they could be sitting in front of their spouse or their kids, but their mind is wandering. It's thinking about something else. So this teaches people to slow down and be mindful, be present, be in the moment, and trying to quiet the mind and basically have peace in your mind.
Gotcha. So it's fear.
It's called Fear. Yeah,
Who?
it's Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Vietnamese Zen Buddhist master. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Give me
Guys,
one.
you had no idea I was going to ask him this.
I had no idea. No,
I always love, and this is the reason I did it, Mark. And I apologize for putting you on the spot.
I don't know if you can see this. Does that show up or no?
No.
No, it's too bright.
Yeah.
It's called Fear, and it's Thich, T-H-I-C-H, not Nhat, Han, H-A-N-H.
Very nice. Very nice.
That's his name.
But the reason I wanted to do this, and I do this exercise every time, Mark, is it's so important that you be reading something always. And you didn't know that I was going to ask you that question, but I had no doubts that you would be reading something. People like myself are reading.
I'm constantly, now I'm at home working from home, but when I was commuting to work because of the pandemic, I've always got an audiobook. It was either a podcast that's playing in the car or an audiobook. Or when I'm doing the dishes, I've got an audiobook. So if people don't know, there's an app called Hoopla, and it connects to your library, and you can get thousands of books on audio for free.
Oh, nice.
Thousands or tens of thousands of books. And so what I'll do is I'll just go onto the app and listen to audiobooks.
Yeah.
And so I always try to make use of that. If I'm doing dishes, I've got that playing. So always make use of that downtime.
Nice. Quick round of questions: chocolate or vanilla?
Actually, strawberry.
Oh, purple. Pepsi or Coke?
Pepsi.
Cars or trucks?
Cars.
Oh, boo, you had to be from California. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I see you guys next week, Monday, 5 o'clock. Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate your time. We're honored you're here.
Thanks, Dan.
We'll see you guys in the group. Take care. We'll see y'all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.